Hi there everyone, and welcome back to my art channel. And this week I'm going to be testing out what I call a mini vacuum chamber machine for bubble-free resin and silicone rubber. So as you know, I don't usually do many reviews on my channel, so don't be put off and click away just yet, because if you're into resin you'll want to watch on. And importantly, I am not being sponsored for this product and I have no affiliations connected to it. This means my tests will be very honest and I will not hold back my genuine opinion. So as you know, I am a sucker for resin gadgets, so I agreed to test it out for free because as a resin artist, I think you'll find this video very useful. Everyone wants bubble-free resin, and so far I've not been able to afford a vacuum chamber machine. They are just too expensive. This machine is cheaper, much cheaper, and so easy to use. And just in case you're wondering, from a few videos ago, this is exactly the same brand as the fast resin curing machine I tested out a while back. I'll leave the link for you in the description box of this video. It's a useful video if you want to cure your resin in 2 hours. So Resiners have created a small degassing machine for resin. It's a simple design. The box comes with the lid. This has a simple to use digital display. The pressure pot, which is quite large, larger than I thought it would be. Instructions and the plug. Now I'm in France, we do use 240 volts, so the voltage is compatible, but I did need an adapter from a US plug to a French plug, so I just bought this quite cheaply from Amazon. I think I spent only like €4 on it, so not too bad. And I'm going to plug this in and we can start with my experiments. To use some craft resin. This is a low viscosity 1:1 ratio resin. It's the one I use most often, and it's the one that gives me quite a few bubbles when I first mix, so I'd like to test this one out first. I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes and mix. Okay, this has had 3 minutes, and as you can see, there are quite a few bubbles. So that's how many bubbles there are at the moment. And that's just from mixing for 3 minutes. And that's 5 minutes and it will start off automatically. So let's have a look at this while this is doing this. And it makes a little noise, not too loud. And so there are 2 timer settings, as 5 minutes or 9 minutes. And you can pause in between if you need to. So I'm trying to get the best view for you, so we can do a little hyperlapse. And I can already see the bubbles rising to the surface, which is really good. And as I said, this is a low viscosity resin. It's a 1:1 ratio, low viscosity. This is craft resin. This is the one I use the most because I find it's the easiest to measure out. So as you can see, what I have got, oh yes, then what we have to do here is you have to release the, I'm just reading the instructions as we go. The machine beeps after timing is over. Unplug the silicone cover. So that's this thing here. And wait about 30 seconds to release the pressure. Oh, that's quite a hiss. So I'm going to wait another few seconds. And I guess until the lid comes off. Well, it's off. And what have we got here? So the bottom looks like it's clear, but there is still a bunch of foam. but it does look slightly clearer. All right, back on with the lid. Close this valve, make sure it's well sealed. There it is. And I might just try the automatic one, so on, and press the AI. That's 9 minutes. Let's try 9 minutes. And it should start. There we go. And you can see the numbers go up as the pressure is being extracted. And the noise is really quite minimal, it's not too bad. And that's basically all you need to know about this machine. Instructions are pretty simple and it's very easy to use. So the maximum is 94, I believe, 94.2, 95 kp. Okay, whatever that means. I'll have to look that up later. And let's have a look. And you can see that it's slowly clearing up from the bottom up to the top. It's about ½ an ounce clear there. But I do feel that this will need longer than most. I will be trying with another resin just to see if there's a difference. If you had a resin that you were worried about working time, so a resin that has a shorter working time, you'd have to be quick once this is done, because it's already going to be 15 minutes, 9 plus 5, about 14 minutes in total of your working time spent in this little cube. And there, we're almost finished. We've got 4 seconds it's going to beep. Okay, and then we just release this. You'll hear a hiss. And you can see those bubbles gone down. So what have we got? Still quite a few bubbles on the surface, but you can see that almost up to the 2 ounce mark it is clear, and there isn't any bubbles there at all. So I'm going to go and get my torch lighter and try and zap some of these big ones. And then there is still a tiny layer of bubbles left, as you can see. But all in all, it's not bad. Now I've used up 14 minutes now that I've been talking, say about 15 minutes working time. This has about 45 minutes. I'm not that worried, but I do want to go right to the end of this experiment, so I'm going to put it back in. Let's do that. Put the lid back on, the valve back on. Sorry about my wobbly photography here. This time I'm just going to do 5 minutes, and that will be almost a total of 20 minutes in, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. There's not much point of another hyperlapse, so I'll see you in 5. And of course, something I didn't mention, I think it's important, if you're going to add any pigment powders, any mica powder to tint your resin, you'll need to mix that in first before doing this step. If you go through all this process of 20 minutes of vacuuming your resin to get the bubbles out, and then you add your pigment powders or your mica powders, what you might find is you'll reincorporate bubbles in as you're stirring, even if you stir slowly. So my advice would be to mix your colouring in first, then vacuum out the bubbles. Here we have 1 minute 23 left, and it's now clear above the 2 ounce mark, so I think this is going to be good. And as I said, I still can't see any bubbles on the lower half. So far I'm impressed. Even if it doesn't give 100% results, it is better than it was 20 minutes ago. So while that's finishing off, I am just going to show you what I'm going to do to fill this. And it's crystal clear. I'm going to use one of these druzy, well, it's not quite a druzy, and it's crystal points. It's a silicone mold that gives you crystal points, and I'm going to do them properly clear so that we can see the results. And the tip when pouring that, now that we've taken the bubbles out into here, is to go slowly. Really slowly, and hopefully that will give good results. Now, I was going to put it into my Resiners machine, but the problem is I don't have height there. That's the problem with that. I'm just going to close the sun here. I've got this problem. So that's my problem with this mold. We're finished. Okay, here we go. Wow, look at that. Give it a couple of seconds. You'll hear a little squirt, tiny one, and that's let the last bit of pressure out. And that is pretty damn clear. I am very pleased with that, considering I would usually have many more bubbles than this at this stage. So I am going to give it another little quick zap. You could also use a heat gun. Wow. Okay. That really is getting rid. I'm just going to be careful not to burn the plastic and to turn it too much. Now let me just feel it. It is starting to get hot because it's 20 minutes that have gone past. So I'm going to get using on this. I'm going to get this done as soon as I can. So let's put that there. And holding my camera as steady as I can, I'm going to pour in really carefully. I'm not going to do all of them. And I'm going to pour in as slowly as I can so that I'm not incorporating any more bubbles into the resin as it pours down. Now, ideally, I would love to try this experiment with some silicone rubber to make molds. But so far, this is really crystal clear. Now, the results will be tomorrow when I unmold these. As I said, it's clear now, but I have no idea if there are any bubbles. If there are any bubbles on the surface. Well, there are 1 or 2. So we're going to just test these 3 points and we'll see. Now, as I said, if I was going to use some colour, so this is a spare mold that I have, and it is starting to get warm, so I have to make a move on. I'm going to mix in a bit of colour, pour some in there, and then we'll come back later to see how this is. I'm going to put this in my Resiners machine, since this is a 1-to-1 resin, put it on for an hour, and this should be done. So as you can see, I'm stirring slowly, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to tell if there's any bubbles in there, because it will be slightly opaque. I won't really be able to see through. But if I go really slowly enough, this resin releases its bubbles over time in any case. So this should be even clearer than it normally is. But I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to pour it in here. And just in case, I can see a couple of things there. I'm wondering if that's the mica powder because I didn't mix it in properly. I'm not really worried too much. This will be the underneath of the coaster, so I don't mind if there are little patches of mica powder. I actually think that's pretty looking. but as you can see, I am blowing bubbles out. So mixing it in after you've put it in the vacuum machine will give bubbles back again. So that my fear was correct. So do this first and then vacuum it out. So I'm going to go 60 at the highest. And as you can see, because I haven't got the height, really I shouldn't have to do this, but I really wanted to speed this up, I have really just squashed it down there. I've got a little gap there, so just to make sure that all the heat stays inside. It's my little DIY with a bit of painter's tape. We'll see how that goes in an hour. For my next experiment, I am going to cast this in some silicone rubber. I have prepared a housing mold made out of Lego, and if you want to know how I do this, I have a full video on how to make your own molds and different housing methods. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use some Let's Resin silicone rubber. It's also 1:1. I'm going to mix up just enough to put here, but before I do that I have to hot glue gun this down and hot glue around the sides. Okay, I have mixed for 3 minutes in total. It's quite gassy. I'm going to zoom you in a moment, but let me just show you quickly how gassy it is. If you can see from there, it's quite gassy. I have no idea if this will work, if this is meant for resin or it's meant for silicone as well. We'll see. So, same thing. Push this on, switch it on. I'm going to do just 5 minutes this time. So that is rising really quickly and hopefully it won't overflow. If it does, what I'm going to do is press the pause button and let it, I'm gonna press the pause button now. You can see that really does work there. I'm just gonna let it degas a little, switch it back on. What pressure are we? We're right almost at the maximum. We're at 9. Okay, we've got 58 seconds left and most of the bubbles have gone. There's just that one gigantic one. Don't know what it's doing there. It's kind of like hovering. I think that's pretty successful. I'm pleased with that. Okay, here we go again. All those big bubbles have gone just about. Aha, what have we got here? Wow, that is pretty bubble free and smooth. I have this all glued down the sides and then I can pour. Now I'm wondering if I need to pour from a height from this one, since all of the bubbles have gone now. I'll just do it the usual way and see. Okay, I know what that is. That's the lid. That's not a bubble, that's where the lid went. Okay, you can laugh along with me. May as well. Okay, let's carry on. But that really does look clear. Ah, there's one. I'm going to part from that. I don't know if I've made enough. We'll see in a minute. No, I haven't made enough. So I'm going to make some more. Do exactly the same thing. And then finish this off. And this will take a couple of hours, if not till tomorrow morning, to set up. So at just 1 minute and a half, all the bubbles have gone. And I'm actually going to stop this, there's no point it going forever. So this is the second batch of silicone rubber. And that is completely and utterly flat. Right, here we go. Let's pull the rest out here. Oh, I made just enough. That was another 4 ounces. And look how clear that rubber is. There's barely a bubble. Okay, we shall see the results of that tomorrow. Okay, we're back and I've got these out of the curing machine. And I actually put it on for 2 hours. And so obviously this was not done with the machine, but this side is, and apart from maybe one bubble there, and I think that's because I mixed the powder in after it had already been vacuumed. So that's at least done, and I am going to unmold these, and I am the most curious about these. So they're, I would say, 90% cured. So I'm going to pick them out. And I've already done the other one. I got a bit curious before and I picked it out, and all I can say is I am super happy with them. I'm going to try and bring you to the light so you can see them. They are practically crystal clear. And last but not least is the experiment using silicone rubber. So this feels like it's done. So I'm going to carefully get this apart. Yeah, that's done. And this is always the hardest part because it's suctioned in, but there you go. That's the original, and again in a future video I will be using this, probably with some Eco Pure, and having some fun with that. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. You can tell from my review that I gives it 2 thumbs up. It's perfect if you don't have a big budget but you want a vacuum machine. I highly recommend it, and I'm going to obviously be experimenting with it lots more, so look out for all those videos. I wish you all a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thumbs up to this video, and do leave a comment. I always love hearing from you. Take care. Bye.